motorcycle over here. There's Jimmy next to me. You can hear his R1. There goes Jimmy. Bye, Jimmy. So, yeah, I treated myself to a new pair of A-Stars SPX gloves. Man, the price of everything has just gone up. A pair of decent gloves, $140 plus tax. Granted, I get a discount, so I think it came to like $128 after tax, but still. Remember when going to the movies cost a nickel? No, I don't actually remember that ever, but I do remember being able to buy a nice pair of A-Stars. It's not even the full gauntlets. These are just the summer. They're nice. I mean, you know, it's Alpine Stars, so it's good gloves, and they're well armored and stuff. But it's the light summer gloves, you know, because I just wear them out every season. I got to get a new pair of gloves every year, except for my track gloves. And that's just primarily because, you know, if you're only doing 2-3 track days a year, they're not getting worn all that much. Or if I'm going to go do a dragon run where I'm going to wear full leathers, you know, just to be extra protection because we're going to be idiots. So maybe I wear those, I don't know, 10 times a year. So those gloves will last me years and years. But my dailies, I wear them out in no time. Lickety split. So the problem I have with my camera mount setup on this bike is that it covers my speedometer from my line of sight, so I can't see how fast I'm going or what gear I am in. I can see my tachometer. I guess that's something. Anyway, allergies are kicking up, so I'm just going to take a leisurely ride home. I don't think it's something to talk about today. I mean, I could just probably shut up and you enjoy the ride once I get to some of the back roads here in a few minutes. But yeah, I used to remember getting A-Stars gloves. You know, like a decent set of gloves would be like $79, $89. So they've gone up 70% or 60%, whatever the math works out to be. $140 plus tax comes out to normally about $150 just for a set of summer gloves. It's not chump change. I mean, compared to the price of the bike and everything else, I guess it's the cheapest thing. Also had to get 2 new tires. Need a rear tire for the MT-10. Has 1,100 miles. Oh, not even. It's got, well, I guess it's right around 1,100 miles. And the back tire's got about 200-300 miles left on it. That thing eats tires. I'm just gonna stick with the stock S22s because the front's in good shape. So I usually get 2, maybe 3 rear tires to a front, but typically I'm hard on the front too, just because I'm a heavier guy. Hitting the brakes coming into turns and stuff like that. I tend to get about 2 rear tires for every one. So I would normally have switched over to like the new Dunlop Q5S. But being that I've got the front tires still in good shape, I don't want to rip off a perfectly good front tire and then spend $500 on a goddamn set of tires. So I could pick up the rear tire for, you know, $220 or whatever the S22s are going for. The S22s are really reliable, are really affordable. They're a good tire. They come standard on the ZX6R, the MT-10. Nothing wrong with an S22. I don't like them as good as the Q3 Pluses and I guess now the Q5S. The Dunlops, I think, are a little bit stickier, and I really like their profile. There's something about that profile that's very stable and confidence-inspiring. So I will ultimately probably switch to those, unless I'm thinking about going, you know, I've got the Michelin Road 6s on this. The thing is, it's like I'm gonna take that bike on track, and that bike this makes 103 or whatever at the wheel, and that makes 150. It's a big step up in power and speed. But I mean, I don't know, the Road 6s, I'm gonna see if I can do some research and find out if other people are using like Road 5s and Road 6s on like leader bikes and riding spirited and doing an occasional track day. I've had Q5, no, not Q5s, I've had Road 5s ripping on the mountains, pushing hard. I've had them on track, and granted, I'm not an advanced rider. I'm a novice. Realistically, I'm a lower end of intermediate that tends to ride in novice, and that's mainly because I don't like. I got two main reasons, so maybe this will be an interesting discussion or not. I don't know. Everybody always wants to go up in class. Oh, I don't want to be a novice. I've always been of the mind of I don't give a shit what my class. It's like my ego's not part of it. It doesn't hurt my ego to be like, oh, I'm a novice. Don't care. I'm out there. I'm riding my ride. I can go every bit as fast. It does say change some of the passing rules, but that's okay, because what I have found a lot with intermediate over the years, because I have been an intermediate a few times, is you got people that belong in intermediate, and then you got people that are advanced, but they want to be the fastest guy out there, so they sandbag and go down intermediate. And then you got people who are they really should be in novice, and they've kind of been bumped prematurely, or they just said they're intermediate and they're out there and no one's checked them. And so you got a big hodgepodge in intermediate. Advanced is pretty much advanced. If you're out in advanced, for the most part, from what I've seen, you belong there. What I've heard, talking to people, there's a few people, we'll get into another topic another day, there's a few women riders that go to advanced that aren't at an advanced pace, and if they weren't women, they would not be in advanced. That's a whole different discussion. And I don't want to call it any names because I know them and they're very nice girls, and they are good riders, so I'm not trying to dog on them. I'm just throwing up whatever comes into my head as I say it. So I don't want to piss anyone off. They're good, solid riders, and they're very nice. So I'm not going to pick on them. And even if they are there and aren't running that pace, it's honestly not even their fault. It's guys' faults for blowing smoke or having double standards when it comes to female riders. That's going to be its own topic one day, about the sport and how women are treated, and how yeah, we'll get into that. We'll save that for another day. I'll have to think on that. But again, no negative about the women riders. They're good, and I like them. I've met most of them personally. In any case, so what am I babbling about right now? Well, in intermediate, you get a disparity. You get a bunch of people that are like advanced or should be advanced, and then you get people that are novice and should be in novice, and you put them all together, and to me, I've always seen more red flags in intermediate than anywhere else. And not knowing, if you're in advanced, those are track day junkies. Those are track day guys that do it a lot. Those are guys who are racers. They go there, they race Weir or whatever, and they're going and doing advanced track days to practice. They know the rules. You don't have to worry about 99% of them. If they're going to pass you on the inside in a fast turn, and they're going to be 6 inches off you, you can pretty much trust that unless something crazy happens, you're fine. They know what they're doing. You can trust in them, and you're safe around them. I don't have that confidence with intermediate where they do let you pass in the turns on the inside. And they'll say, well, there's a 6-foot rule. I don't know. You get some guy who thinks he's going to be faster than you, and he's I'm going to dive and bomb into the front of the turn, and then he loses it. And when he dumps it and loses the front on the inside, you're going to slide towards the outside, which is where you are. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't know that I trust the average person. And it may just be a perception thing, but I'm like, In novice, I feel like it's a bit safer. I can go as fast as I want. Yeah, I'm going to get stuck behind someone going into a turn who's tiptoeing through the turn. Whatever. I'll pass them coming out, pass them down the straight, or late brake at the end of the straight. Because the kind of person that's typically going to tiptoe through the turns is probably going to brake early. It's like I just don't worry about it. There's no prizes, there's no trophies. The trophy is you have fun, you learn to ride your bike a little bit better, and you go home with everything in one piece, including yourself. So I'm like, whatever, I don't care. And other people are like, oh man, I'm tired of being a novice, I want to be an, and I'm not deaning all you guys deserve to be an intermediate. You guys are great riders. No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you wanting to be there. To me, I'm just like, for some reason I'm not worried about dragging a knee. It's like I can ride at the pace I'm riding, and I've never had to drag a knee. I hang way the hell off the bike. It's more of a body position thing. I'm running the pace. I'm hanging off the bike physically enough. I'm just not getting my knee and my body position in the right position to actually make contact with the ground. That's my problem. But I don't worry about it, because I'm like, well, I'm already going around the turn as fast as I want to go anyway, so, like, and again, I'm not begrudging anybody that drags a knee. Most of my friends, Dean and Cameron and TJ and I think Jake now, and shit, Sarah was almost dragging a knee. She'd only been riding for a year and a half, so whatever. You guys do you, I do me. And so, you know, for those occasional track days in novice, and there were a couple times where they're like, I got a control rider, did pull me, I think it was 3 times maybe, out of the 20 track days I've done, it was only 3 times, where they pulled me aside, once at Road Atlanta, and I think twice at Tally. They were like, you need to go to intermediate. I'm like, yeah, but all my friends are out here, they're like, dude, you're lapping people, especially at Tally, because it's a small track, and if you're out there on a 1000, they're like, you're lapping people, you're going significantly faster than most of the people out here, you need to go to intermediate. But at that pace, you know, higher end of novice, low end of intermediate, which is realistically where I am on track, I think the damn Road 6s might be fine. I tend to ride faster on the street than I do on track, and Wesley and them all make fun of me for it, but, and I don't know why. I should go faster on track. I think it's because it's a confidence thing, it's a perception. I spend so much more time on the road, especially certain roads up in the mountains, where I'm like, I kind of know how far I can typically push my bike. I know how fast I can take that turn. I know where all the tar snakes are. As long as there's not gravel or a goddamn cyclist in the road, like for the most part, I can go up that road at a dumb pace. You know, when I ride with Robert and Wesley on track, they just walk away from me like I'm not even there. I might as well be on a goddamn scooter. But when we get up in the mountains and I've ridden with Wesley and Robert, they're nowhere to be seen. And that's not because I'm a faster rider. It's just for whatever reason, on the street, I'm willing to ride faster. And on the street, they're like, fuck this, I ain't doing this, this is crazy. You know, on a track, you can see through the turns, you know it's coming. There's not going to be a cyclist in front of you or a dog. I'm not going to have to worry about a freaking car going slow or someone coming at me because they're taking a selfie coming down the mountain, right? So it's not a question of me being faster than Wesley or them, but I'm willing to ride my bike faster than they are on the road. And I've never had a problem with those tires. So I'm wondering if I can get away, because I'll end up paying a bit more for the tires, about $100 more, $125 more. But if I can do all the kind of riding I want to do, including an occasional track day on a set of Road 6s, and I'll be able to get, maybe on a leader bike, maybe I'll be able to get 4,000 or 5,000 miles out of a set, instead of, I'm only averaging 15 to 1,800 out of a rear. And on this S22 that came on the bike, that back tire, I'll be on the wear bars, and those things will be needing to come off by 1,500. And I'm not doing wheelies. I leave the traction control on. I mean, I do a little bit of wheelies, but I'm not doing burnouts. I'm not, you know. It's just big horsepower bikes tend to chew those tires up. So if anybody's got an MT-10 and you've gotten a good sport touring tire, Road Smart 4s, Road 5s, Road 6s, you know, running 34 front, 36 rear, you know, pressures and stuff like that, let me know how those tires have performed, because I'm going to get an S22 on the rear now, just to be cheap, and just because the front tire's still good. So I'm just going to replace it with what's on there. And by the time the back tire needs replacing again, the front will have about 3,000 miles on it, and it'll need to go as well. And at that time, maybe I will just go road 6s. If they're grippy enough to ride like a fool, and I can do, you know, 1 to 2 track days a year, which is all I'm probably ever going to do, at least on a street bike. You know, if I got into a situation where I was like, you know, I'm just going to do this like once a month, and at that point I'm just going to go buy a Gixxer 750 and track it out, and then I'm not going to worry about that shit. But on a street bike, you know, it's going to be a little bit here and there. It's fun to do once in a while. It's nice to see what the bike can really do and get some good video for the channel, and, you know, kind of do what the bike is meant to do. It's fun doing that, but it's also stressful. And if I wad up the bike and I don't have track insurance, my regular insurance will not cover it. So I do want to get this out on Road Atlanta. I think I'm going to sign up for a track day. I'm going to sign up for a track day, I think July 4th weekend, which can suck because it's usually hot as, it's crazy hot in the summertime. But get a pop-up tent and some fans. Maybe Donna brings her camper. It's got air conditioning. It's brutal hot. Be sitting out there in full leathers all day. Just the sun beating on you in a hot parking lot. In the parking lot, it's like 110 degrees, and you just sit there going, ugh. And I'm a northern white boy. I'm great in the cold. Not so good in the heat. So, but I know Jonathan's really itching to get his street triple out there. So I've taken the ZX14 out a few times on that track, and it's awesome. I think I'm going to take both naked bikes this time. I want to take this bike out and just do a session or two. Get some good track footage of this on track, because I've never seen anybody, I mean, I'm sure someone's done it, but I've not seen any good track day videos, especially not on a big, I mean, Moto America's up there racing right now. Like, that's a big, like, legit racetrack. Really high speed. Perfect for leader bikes. He was gonna pull out. Yeah, so I'm gonna do that and the MT-10, because I've got to do my suspension, and then yeah, then that's ready. But that bike, the way it's tuned, and the quick shifter, and once we get the damn suspension dialed in with some new shock and cartridges and springs up front, that thing's gonna be badass. I mean, it's already kind of badass, but it's really gonna handle well. And I think out on track, that thing's just gonna come completely into its own. But this thing will be a riot. I went out, one of the most fun times I had on track, honestly, was on that Z900. Because naked bikes aren't a lot of fun. You get up to a certain speed. When you get over 140 and you're a big guy like me, it ain't fun. The wind's beating the shit out of you. It's pulling at you. You're getting the wind clawing at your shoulders and your chest, which is putting unwanted input into the steering, into the handlebars. So it makes the bike feel squirrely. It's just, it's hard to relax and just, you know, on the ZX14, you just kind of lean in a bit and it goes whoosh. And it just cuts through the wind like a giant scalpel. And you're in this nice little pocket of calm in that aerodynamic bubble. You know, because they put that bike in a wind tunnel and designed it. You know, you make a bike that's designed to go, you know, limited to 187, but can hit 200 as soon as you remove the governor, which we did. You know, in order to hang on to a bike and do that, you know, it's got to be aerodynamic and protect the rider as much as possible. You think you could stand in the center of a Cat 5 tornado? Hell no. Trying to go 190 on a bike, if you ain't got wind protection, it is a miserable experience. I found anything over 140 is just miserable when you're my size, because I just can't tuck down enough to really get out of the damn wind. So the Z900, I was barely hitting 130. It was perfect. It was right at that point where, okay, I wouldn't want to go much faster than this anyway, but you just get to ride the wheels off it and keep it pinned like the whole time. Whereas like on an R1 and a ZX14, you're going horrifying speeds in no time. And you got to be careful, because man, you make a mistake at, I mean, you make a mistake at any speed, it's going to hurt, but you know, you make a mistake at a $170, oof. They'll be picking you up out there with a squeegee. So yeah, I want to get this out on track. I think it's going to be freaking brilliant. Being able to just chuck this into turns and just wide open down the straightaways. And what I found on the Z900 was, yeah, I got massacred. I got murdered on the straightaways. You know, I was like, the guy with the MT-10 was just pulling away from me. Yeah, I beat Jake on a Ninja 400, and, you know, coming off the turns, I could pull on an R6, and then they kind of get back up into their power band and then start to pull away again. So, you know, you're able to play with people and have fun. What I found what forced me to do on the Z900 was to keep the throttle pinned through the kink before coming down into 10A, and I just had to brake later. And so some of the guys on the CBR 1000s and the big bikes that were passing me, you know, easily passing me on the straights, they had to scrub off all that extra speed, and so they'd brake a little bit earlier. I'm only at, you know, 128 or something like that. They're at a $160 plus, so they typically start braking earlier. I wasn't going as fast, so I could brake later, and so the guys that just passed me 8 seconds ago, a bunch of them I was able to pass again coming down into 10A. And that just made it fun and enjoyable. It was like a little bit of cat and mouse thing, and it was like you had to think about where you could pass, or, you know, being on a big bike does, in some ways you have to be more careful, but in other ways you can be lazier, because you're like, oh, I don't, on the ZX14, I mean, Cameron will tell you, he was right on my back tire, and were we allowed to pass in novice in the turns, Cam would have just passed me in every freaking turn. He's gotten really good as a rider. He's now, I think, better than me, and he had a much more flickable, agile bike. That's still pretty goddamn quick, right? It's a 900. So coming into the turns, you know, I'm on the big kind of hefty bike. It doesn't flick left or right as much through the chicane, and, you know, it's a little bit more of a handful because I've got an extra 120 pounds of just a bike, not even including my weight. And it's just, my bike's just not that nimble. And he would be right on my tails going, I wish I could just let me pass him in the turns. But I knew it wasn't a big deal. It's like, whatever, he's on my tail. As soon as the road even looks remotely like a straightaway, I would go, poof, and I'm in the next fucking zip code. And Cam's just sitting there going, son of a bitch. All that work to catch up, brake late, get right on my wheel, and there's nothing he can do about it. Big bikes like that let you be like that. I know I can I can slow down a little bit for the turns, because I can pick that speed up in the blink of an eye. Whereas, you know, you're on a 600 or something like that, you got to carry that high corner speed, because whatever you lose, you're not going to get back as quickly coming out. So a bike like this bike is really good up. I mean, it pulls hard, it accelerates fast, as well as a 600 at least, because of all the torque, and it does make over 100 horsepower at the wheel, up to 80, 90. After that, the wind is really going to start holding me back. So on a big fast flowing track, now if I was on Little Tally, I think this bike could be a friggin' riot, because it has phenomenal brakes. These Brembos are stellar. Same setup basically I had on my Panigale. So no problem in the braking department. And the suspension, K-Tech and Olin's, with a damper. I know I got good handling. It's not R6 handling, but it's good handling. And with all this torque, just Tally being a slower track, more technical, lots of slow down, speed up, no long straightaways to blast down. It's nice to, this would be a riot out there. Road A? I might get my ass kicked. But I'll have fun doing it. I'll be smiling and laughing the whole time. And that's why I've kept this bike around. I'm going to sell one of my bikes. I just don't need 3 bikes right now, honestly. And the way that the MT-10 is turning out to be just so freaking amazing. I'm thinking about getting a luggage system for the ZX14. One that quick detaches. So when I want to take it on track or go up the mountains, I don't have all the luggage and shit. But I'm thinking of almost making that, because I've got the 1-inch bar risers on it for a little more comfort. It's got an amazing seat. It's plush suspension. It's great. But if I can get some hard luggage, throw a couple bags on the back, I'm going to make that into my hyper touring bike. So when Don and I want to go down to Florida for a week to see our brothers, when we want to go up to the Dragon and get a cabin for 3-4 days, I want the bike with the fairing and the wind protection for rolling down the highway and making it more comfortable, and it just eats up miles. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have cruise control, but that ZX14, put it in 6 and you're just rolling along. It's like, it seems like it's barely above idle, sipping fuel at 80 miles an hour in 6th gear, and you can just go, and it just purrs like a kitten down the highway. And it's smooth. It's big, it's comfortable. I got room to move around on. The brakes are phenomenal. It's got Brembos with braided lines and all that shit from the factory. That's a great bike. And it's a bulletproof motor, and it just goes. And then when you find a set of twisty roads or a nice bed of sweepers and you want to just give it the beans, the violence that thing unleashes, it's just it goes from this, oh, it's a big, you know, giant sport touring bike, is what it kind of feels like at times. Some ways it feels like a more agile concourse. And then you just pin the throttle, and it's like the Millennium Falcon hitting hyperdrive, where the stars just start bending into like beams of light, and you're just like, that's what that thing feels like. It's just whoosh, and you're gone. So I think putting a goddamn set of luggage rack, because it has a mount on the rear passenger pegs. On the mount, there's a brace there for some kind of mounting system. I need to find out what that is and invest in that. If I can get a couple like nice 50-liter bags that are waterproof and throw them on the side, strap another bag to the back seat, I could go away for a week and a half. Don and I could do a trip. We could go to Texas, go to the Southeast, go do something, and it'd be great. I got a bike alarm, I got my camera set up. All that thing needs is some luggage, and I've got a 200-mile-an-hour touring bike that I can sit on in comfort all day. I think it'd be a blast. And the MT-10 for everything else. But before I decide which bike to get rid of, it's like, it's a hard decision. This bike is so cool, but it's like, it's fun to ride in a different way. But as much as I've done to this thing, like, this doesn't hold a candle to the MT-10. When I'm up ripping in the turns, this thing, you know, even with the suspension, it's great for what it is, and it's way faster than people think it's going to be. But it's not, you know. On a tight road where you can't use a lot of your big bike power, I will surprise and I will hang with people that are on technically faster bikes. Rider skill being equal, this thing surprises people. It's a sleeper. They don't expect it to be making over 100 horsepower. It's got 85 foot-pounds of torque at the wheel. That's more than Jimmy's R1. That's more than my old R1. That's a lot of torque. And when you got really good brakes and you got good suspension on it now, it's like, it'll hold its own. And when you're on twisty, turny roads that you're constantly driving off corners, man, that's where that torque just punts you out of the damn corner every time. And when you can't go more than 80 or 90 miles an hour, that's where this thing's happy. And that's where the full-on sport bikes are like, that they're just getting going. They're just waking up at those speeds, right? So this is very fun in that environment, but it's not, it's the least comfortable bike I have. Even with that aftermarket seat, this is not a bike I would go on a trip on. I would be hating life about 2 hours into the trip. If I had to sit in one position, when I'm up in the mountains all day, it's not that bad because I'm sitting here moving around on the bike. I'm hanging off one side and the other side, and so I'm moving around a lot. If I'm sitting on the interstate on this frickin' seat, or even that aftermarket seat, dude, an hour and a half in, Not even the 2 hours. Probably an hour and a half in, I'm going to be squirming. My butt's going to be hurting. This is not that kind of a bike. It's good for a quick blast out to dinner. Go up for a quick blast up in the mountains and play around if you're going to move around. I'm going to take it up to the Dragon, and that's going to be a 350-mile ride in a day. But I guarantee I'll be coming home and reaching for a muscle relaxer and some ibuprofen. I'll do it, but... So I'm kind of torn. Like, at first I was like, you know, I got this thing back. I'm going to keep it because it's just so cool. But when I think about the kind of riding that I do and what I want to do, I would like to do a couple little trips here and there. I wanted to do that with the Tracer. That's why I bought the damn Tracer. I lost a bunch of money on that Tracer because I had to flip it in 4.5 months because it didn't work out. But I wanted to go and do those kinds of rides. And other than the horrible discomfort in my neck and the seat, you know, having a nice comfortable bike that I was able to take down to Florida and have luggage, and we had to go grocery shopping, great. Throw the shit in the hard bags. Get back to the Airbnb, to the condo on the waterfront, on the ocean. You just go click and pop them off and carry them upstairs like suitcases. Like, it was really cool. It's very convenient having that kind of bike. I just couldn't gel with it and get it to be comfortable. But the ZX14 now I've had for a year. I already know it's comfortable. All I got to do is put some goddamn luggage on it. I got the taller bars. I got the higher windscreen. It's got a pipe. It's tuned. It's flashed. It's unlocked. We got the suspension set up for me. Now that I know that that bike is actually working for me, I think putting some damn luggage on it makes sense. And if I don't need a third bike, I know a bunch of people watching this go like, no, don't get rid of the Speed Twin. It's like, I haven't, I'm not yet. I'm just, but if I was going to get rid of a bike right now, if my wife just said, look, you got to get rid of one of them. Granted, she's the one that told me to keep all three. But if my wife said, you know, if there was something came up where I'm like, I need to cut expenses, or I just don't need 3 bikes in the garage, I need the space. I think I would get rid of this. But I want to do a track day on it first, so I'm going to keep it for at least a couple months until July. And at that point, you know, I've gotten some more use out of it. It'll have some more miles on it. And, you know, I only tend to keep bikes for about a year to 14, 15 months anyway. And at that point, I will have had it for that amount of time. And I won't feel bad about the work that we had to put into it with Brian and getting the bike rebuilt because, you know, every bike I've ever owned, the longest I've ever owned a bike was 15 months. Other than my very first bike. That was, what the shit was that? That was a 1996 Yamaha Seika 2 XJ600. It was an inline 4, but it was air-cooled. Not a high-performance bike. With a pipe and a jet kit, it was like 53 horsepower at the wheel. At least according to the Washington Cycle Works, WCW. Up in Washington, New Jersey. That was my first bike. And so that one I had for like 5 years. And I only put about 26,000 miles on it because most of that time I had it was up there. And, you know, you can only ride for half the year. Once they start throwing salt and gravel down on all the roads from a snow or an ice storm, I ain't riding in that shit. You come around a turn and you're on ball bearings. It's horrible. So, yeah. I think I got this at 4K. I may downgrade it when I'm in post. I may drop it down to 1080p just to make it not take 3 weeks to upload because it's going to be a massive file. But yeah, if you've got thoughts on that, you know, so a couple things. If you've got, give me your thoughts on anyone who's got a ZX14. Any of my viewers have a ZX14. You know, if you've done the 1-inch bar risers and the taller screen and got the suspension set up, how is it as a touring bike? Light touring. I'm not talking about going coast to coast, but it's like if I want to go down to Florida for a weekend, I want to go down to Savannah or Tybee Island or something like that, or, you know, if we did decide, hey, you know what, let's go out west. I guess it's almost coast to coast. My wife rode her Street Triple RS, threw some Krieger bags on the back, and bungeed a bunch of shit to it. And she rode out to El Paso and then out to Roswell, New Mexico. I mean, that's a long-ass ride. She did a 1,500 mile. We went up to the women's sport bike rally up at Deals Gap, and then her and Margie and another girl, they just packed little tents and all their creaker bags and all that shit, and they did this massive loop, went north and then over across Tennessee and down through Kentucky and Arkansas and Missouri and down back through Mississippi or Louisiana. They were all over the place in this massive loop on a naked sport bike. So I think the ZX14 could be a hell of a mega tourer. I just literally, everything's done to it now. I literally just need to figure out a luggage solution. If I can get some nice, I mean, I've got a 55-liter BMW bag that would easily just strap to the back seat. But I'm thinking, what if I got some hard luggage that just clicked onto a mount? And that way between the two, man, I could have 150 liters of storage. Like, that's a lot for a guy. All I need is spare clothes, underwear, jeans, t-shirts, and toiletries, right? Some bottles of water. Like, I don't have to worry about makeup, and obviously I don't have to worry about hair care products and a curling iron or hair dryer or any of that shit. I need a toothbrush, toothpaste, cologne, and deodorant. My medicinals, Prilosec, allergy medicine, multivitamin. I mean, basic shit. Put in Ziploc baggies. I've been able to go away for a good bit of time, you know, 3-4 days just on a one bag. I mean, I've got one of those Swiss Army bags, and I was able to go up to Deals Gap for 3 days just with a backpack. That also had my laptop and an HDMI cable so I could plug in and watch Netflix. I mean, I was able to make stuff work. So I think a bike like a ZX14 that I could just put a couple saddlebags, hard bags on the side with a mount that just bolts to the damn. I'll have to do a video, quick one, showing what it is. But it looks like it's made. I mean, I may have to just go with the Kawasaki one because clearly they've made something there for that purpose. You can tell by the way it's molded in, and there's a plug in the hole. But I think that would be an absolutely stunning performance touring bike. And then my daily would just be the MT-10. I could go do track, I could just go ride silly, go to dinner, and at that point I don't need this. I could pass this on at that time, but once I've done the track day, I will have had this for almost a year and a half, and I'll be ready to pass it on to the next person to enjoy. Ah, those brakes are just awesome. And they're not abrupt, they're just smooth and powerful, man. Brembo M50s. Braided lines, Brembo radial master cylinder, EBC HH pads. This thing's great. And I'm talking about how great it is, and I'm also thinking about selling it at the same time, but but it is fun. I would miss it, but I mean, I can say that about every bike. I mean, for the people that are watching this and going, I could think of selling this bike, it's awesome. It's just how I am, dude. The MT-10 is my 34th bike. My wife's on number 13. Bikes come and go in Dave's garage. They just don't last long. I've got a damn short attention span. I buy them, I mod them, I tweak them, I have some fun, experiment with them, but then at some point I'm like, It's like once I run out of things to do to it, I've never found the bike that I've been like, I can't see not having this bike. Hopefully one day I'll find that bike. I mean, at some point I'll have to just stop spending money on bikes and just get something and enjoy it for what it is. And I'll be forced to do that probably for financial reasons, to get towards retirement or whatever. You can't just keep blowing money on bikes, but I think it would be, I think the ZX14 makes a lot of sense to keep because there's not a lot of bikes that fit me. I mean, I ride this thing, but the bike doesn't fit me that well. That's part of the discomfort, why it's, of the three bikes I have, it's easily the least comfortable. I'm just like, I can make it work. But again, I couldn't ride it for like really long periods of time. Ooh, I hope this little Mini Cooper decides to go have some fun. I'm gonna follow him. Proper British bike, following proper British car. That's a Mini Cooper S. So that's a turbo. That's a quick little car. We used to have one of those. My wife did. Aw, turning already. Say proper British car. Been chased by a proper British bike. Oh well. Next time. Not today, Mini Cooper. Not today. Is a fun bike. So I think I've talked myself into what I'm going to do. I want to keep the Cowie. Obviously the MT-10 ain't going anywhere. That's one of the best bikes I've ever bought. I'm going to do up the suspension on that. I'm going to keep this just long enough to do the track day. Get some good track footage just to do it on this thing. And then I'm going to sell this summer. Pass it on to a good home. Unless one of my friends wants to buy it now. TJ, you can take it off my hands. Or Nick. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So I would say at this point, this thing's days are numbered. I always like the idea of having a casual bike. But at the end of the day, I mean, you can only push this thing so hard. I could push it harder than you'd think you'd be able to, but it's a lot more work to ride this thing up 60 at a really fast pace than like the Yamaha. The Yamaha, even the Kawasaki, they just glide through the turns, and you got so much more power. They're just so much more planted. Yeah, the gloves are feeling all right. So we'll hit a little twisty road up here. Let me know your thoughts. If you think I'm crazy for getting rid of this, but try to keep in mind, don't look at it the way you would look at it. I'm probably not your average rider. If you take out the first bike that I had for 5 years and say, okay, since I got back into motorcycling in 2006, I've had 33 bikes in the last less than 20, I mean, yeah, the last 18 years. I'm almost averaging 2 bikes a year. So you got to keep in mind, that's my perspective and that's my MO. So keeping a bike for over a year is about what a bike's life expectancy with me should be. But you've seen enough of my other bikes and how I ride and what I like to do with them and stuff, and this bike's been great. It's like if I didn't have the Cowie, then I would just keep both of this and the MT-10. But I don't know. I feel like the Cowie I should keep for a while. That thing is just so amazing. And it's great to ride. It's so relaxing in some ways until you hit the gas. Oh, come on, you clowns. I was hoping, I was like, oh, let's finish out this video with a nice little run down Cash Road. Playing the twisties. Alright, please tell me you're hitting the brakes because you're turning. Yes! And this guy in front of me, I think, is going to want to go quick. I don't know, the way he was driving before, it looked like he was trying to go quick. We'll see. Oh, he's turning. Alright. I should have clear track ahead of me. these bumps in the turns. Ugh. A little more rough. It'll do it. But you kind of get the impression that it's like, I'll do it, but I would prefer not to. But you can absolutely have fun with this thing. Fun's about to come to an end. Ah, well. Anyway, give your thoughts on my, not so much a revelation there, but my sort of decision that I think I'm going to let this one go. I definitely would have felt bad and why I kept it, because I was like, you know what, Brian just put a bunch of work into this thing to get it taken care of and get it sorted for me. But I don't know, if I kept it for another half a year, 6, 7, 8 months, put another 4,000 or 5,000 miles on it in a track day, I'm like, okay, you know, I kept it for a while, and it's about to hit the 1.5 year mark. It's time to move on to something else. And honestly, I can't justify really having 3 bikes. It's nice to be able to say I got 3 bikes. Well, my wife's been out of work for 2 months. Job market's not looking great right now, so that's in the back of my head. Like, you know, she's got severance and we got savings and stuff. We could go for a while if we had to, but it's like, what if she doesn't find a job until October, right? We're having to dip into savings and stuff. It's like, do I really need to have that 3rd bike and the extra payment and insurance and stuff like that? And I don't pay for toys outright. I know some people are like, well, don't finance your toy. I don't have any other debt. I have a house and I have vehicles. That's it. I don't carry credit card debt. I got paid the other day, paid all my bills, paid off both little bits of credit card. I had a couple charges on 2 different credit cards. It was like $800. Just paid that. Threw another $1,000 in savings. Bought some motorcycle parts and stuff. I don't really have, I mean, other than, hey. You guys saw that, right? It's just looking at me like I startled her. It's like, dude, do you not know how to navigate a traffic circle? Notice I didn't sit there and curse at her and scream at her and go into any road rage. It's like, okay, she saw me and startled the shit out of her. That's why even when blogging and talking or vlogging and having a phone conversation, pay attention. Because other people don't. Now, if I'd been in the white Mustang or a red truck or something, yeah, she probably would have seen me. But here I am, you know. Well, I like the color of this bike. It's nice. It's stealthy. Yeah, there's a downside to stealth. People don't see you. Sort of what stealth means. And so, you know, my bike is the color of pavement. It's that light matte gray. So she's just farting along, probably on her phone, although she was hands-free, but, you know, she could have been on speakerphone, but clearly just not paying attention, and just goes barreling through there at 40, not realizing, like, hey, I'm right here. I'm walking here. So, always got to be alert. Because majority of the time, the other people on the road are not. And that's something where, you know, people who, like, oh, motorcycle, yeah, do I ride fast? Was I going 80 something down that road back there where it was a 45 zone or 35 in parts? Yeah. Is that a smart thing to do? No. No, it's not. And I understand why some people like get pissed at bikers, but at the same time, it's like I'm very aware typically of what I saw. That guy was like, he's going to pull out immediately, off the brake, off the gas. I'm covering the brake, slowing down in case I got to, you know, in case he does pull out, and things like that. There, I'm like, that lady does not look like she's aware that what the traffic rule is at a circle, which is you always, always, always yield to whoever's already on the circle. And it's like, when you're a biker, I'm not in a car right now. I don't have the music blasting. I'm not eating a goddamn chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A. Mainly because it's Sunday and I can't get a goddamn chicken filet sandwich on Sundays. Damn you. But, everyone's like, what's the big deal? They're not open on Sundays. Why don't you just get it on Saturday? It's like, yeah, but I want a chicken sandwich now. Anyway. Find my happy place. But yeah, like, so that annoyed me, but I was like, I'm not going to add fuel to the fire by sitting there screaming at her. And, what are you doing? She knew she fucked up, obviously. So, what more am I going to do? Ugh. Bump. Yeah, so when you ride a bike, you have nothing to do but look around, dodging cars. You feel like you're in a goddamn game of Frogger. If you're a younger rider, go Google what Frogger is. Anybody in my generation, we know Frogger. And you feel like that. And you know, any minute, you could be the frog going splat. And it, more often than not, won't be because of what we're doing. It's going to be because someone does that, pulls out of a parking lot right in front of you, turns left right in front of you, and you're like, I'm right here. How do you not see me? And they just don't. They could be looking right at you, and they're trained subconsciously to look for danger out of, you know, your peripheral. And so when they see a big car or truck coming, they'll usually see that. Although look how many cars get T-boned in an intersection. So apparently a lot of people aren't even getting that much. But yeah. Anyway, drive around the subdivision real quick, see if Johnny's home. I don't know if it's nice enough if he'd be out on the lake on the jet skis. I can't imagine the water's warm enough, but yeah, might be time to ride this a bit more, enjoy it a little bit more, do a quick track day, and then immediately put it up for sale. I think that's what's going to happen. I was originally going to get rid of the ZX14, but it's like, here's what it comes down to before I get home real quick. This car, or this bike, is way more cool to own. The ZX14 is way more fun to ride. And that's what it comes down to. I can do more things. I can use the ZX14 on a track day. And I can take this on track too, but I can really use that on a track day. And I can go touring on that thing. I can do all kinds of other stuff, whereas this is really just a farting around quick mountain blast. Maybe do a session or two on a track day. It's a much more niche, whatever, bike. So I think this will be the one that I let go. And then on that shocking revelation, it's time to say goodbye. So we'll talk to everybody later. I'll put this together, throw it up, and figure out what the hell to do with the rest of my day. Bye.